Hello, and welcome to the fourth episode of Season 11 of the Dark Money Files, in which we shine a light into a murky world. I'm Ray Blake, and with me is my co-host, friend and business partner, Graham Barrow. Hello, Graham.
Hello, Ray.
Graham, that's an interesting title for this episode. A broader subject than usual as well. Where are we going to start?
Dick Turpin, Ray.
OK, well, I didn't see that coming. Say more.
I will, but in time-honoured fashion, shall we fill in a bit of detail first?
Well, I have relatively limited access to detail here, but as I understand it, it's often said that he rode 200 miles overnight from London to York on a horse called Black Bess.
Which you and I both know to be a complete fiction, Ray.
Yeah, well, a great deal of the supposed history of Dick Turpin isn't it, Graham?
Well, it is, and it's rather timely and rather apposite that as we record this, there's a new release on Apple TV called The Completely Made-Up Adventures of Dick Turpin.
It's on my watch list, and it's got the wonderful Noel Fielding in it.
It has, but that isn't actually why I mentioned Mr. Turpin.
But he was a highwayman then, wasn't he? I mean, we can be clear on that. He was a highwayman, right?
Well, he was eventually, but he actually started out in life as a deer poacher.
Oh, yeah. No, I think the connoisseur prefers their deer roasted, Graham.
Ah, very good, Ray. It's always best to get the dad jokes out of the way early in the podcast.
Yeah. And that'll do for now then.
I think so.
And in the subject of being early, I see he spent his early life in the village of Hempstead in Essex.
Yes, Hempstead in Essex, not to be confused with your hometown of Hemel Hempstead in Hertfordshire.
Or indeed the rather more salubrious Hampstead in North London.
Exactly, although I think they all have pretty much the same root.
Yeah, they all mean village, basically.
Yes, and there are others like Berkhamsted, which is
just up the road from
rumour has it Hemel was named Hemel to differentiate it from Berkhamsted.
Yeah, the village of Berks, indeed.
You wouldn't want to be known as the village of Berks. Anyway, we digress.
They're lovely people when you get to know
lovely,
them.
As are indeed the Hemels.
Yeah.
So, Dick Turpin, his father in Hempstead was an innkeeper and a butcher, which is quite an interesting combination of trades, isn't it?
Well, it is, isn't it? And young Richard, as Dick was probably christened, or possibly not christened, also started life in the butchery trade.
A theme which may have followed him later.
Well, yeah. But, come what may, he eventually joined a criminal gang and graduated from stealing deer to stealing from people. And although this is disputed, killing one or two.
Yes, although it was his theft of horses, which was a capital offence in the 18th century, and that would lead to his undoing, for it was for that he was tried, found guilty and sentenced to death.
Yeah, a couple of murders no one worries about, but, you know, stealing a horse, that's proper criminal, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it is quite a story, but I think we probably need to nudge a little towards relevance fairly soon.
Well, I think you're right, Ray. And had you been around in the 1730s, what would be the chances of you becoming a victim, do you think, of Dick Turpin?
Now, there were about 7 million people in the UK at that time. So, back of a fag packet calculation, no more than about 1 in 500,000.
Yeah, I think he had about 14 victims, so I think you're about spot on. And to be honest, Ray, it wouldn't just happen to anybody. I mean, you would have to belong to a certain class of person to be a target for a highwayman, wouldn't you?
Well, you'd have to be a certain class of person to have the wherewithal to be on the highway in the first place, of course, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Now, for most people, crime was petty. It carried a high price and was far less of a problem for for most people than, say, infant mortality, where, for example, the burials of children under the age of 5 accounted for 75% of all christened children in London.
At about the same time, I presume that we're talking about.
Yeah. No, this isn't last year, Graham.
That's really good to know. And in fact, that was true for a very long time.
Yeah.
I mean, crime was something that happened to you directly, and the consequences for the criminal, if they were caught, could be extremely severe.
Oh, they were. In 1688, there were 50 different offences for which you could be hanged. By 1800, this had increased to 200 different offences.
Yeah, including such as impersonating another to receive a seaman's wage, or destroying silk on a loom, or heaven forbid, and of course, as Dick found out, theft of certain animals.
Well, we all need a hobby, Graham. In fact, almost all of the offences for which you could be hanged were property offences, because murder, somewhat counterintuitively, was relatively rare.
Yeah, and it's that subject of rarity that I wanted to talk about next. Ray, when was the last time you saw a news item about a gang of men walking into a bank with stockings over their heads, armed with sawn-off shotguns, robbing it?
I can't remember such a story, Graham. It would have been a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what about other types of theft from banks?
Now, that's an interesting distinction, Graham, between a robbery and a burglary. A robbery is a theft with the use of force, like having a sawn-off shotgun in your face, whereas the act of stealing without force is more correctly known as a burglary.
Exactly. So thinking about that, there was the Brinks-Mat heist. I love that word.
It's good, isn't
it? It is. The Hatton Garden safe deposit burglary, the Northern Bank robbery.
Yeah, and that was a robbery because they took family members of the bank hostage and others as well to help them break in and steal £26.5 million.
Yeah, so here's the thing, Ray. When robbers or burglars break into a bank and steal millions, who loses the money?
Well, the bank does, Graham.
And they go to great lengths and spend a lot of money to try and stop it from happening, don't they?
They definitely do, although with the long-running demise of the local bank branch, a lot of those security concerns are disappearing with them.
Well, precisely. But when these robberies did happen, who actually suffered the loss?
Well, as I say, Graham, it's the bank, isn't it?
Yeah, so let's say a particular branch suffered an armed robbery where the thieves got away with, and let's say £1 million. And let's say, while we're saying, that the branch had 10,000 accounts.
Okay.
The bank wouldn't divide that £1 million by 10,000 and deduct £100 from each account so that the bank could spread out the loss between all the customers, would it?
Well, no, apart from anything else, that would be complete commercial suicide. You're not going to bank with a firm that made you pay for their poor security or for anything else which, frankly, was outside your control.
I agree. But if you rarely read about bank robberies or burglaries these days, what, in that context, has replaced them?
Well, I think we're all aware of the profusion of bank fraud, Graham. Authorised push payment fraud, social engineering, romance scams, crypto scams, and a whole lot besides.
Yeah, but none of these, Ray, represent the bank's money. That's the point. The bank account has become the portal through which people can become modern-day Dick Turpins, except now they are information superhighwaymen instead.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
But I do see your point, Graham. The need to have top-notch security has moved to a degree from the bank to the customer. At least the need to implement the security has.
Exactly, Ray, but I'm not sure that we have fully embraced that change psychologically.
Well, because it's all virtual and not physical.
Exactly. I mean, you wouldn't dream of going to bed these days with your front door wide open and the lights on. But there are a range of possible alternatives that over the years have evolved from just having a night latch lock, a Yale lock as we would call them, to having a deadlock, door chains, passive infrared lights and internet-enabled security cameras.
And in a way that mirrors the evolution of bank security as more and more people have migrated to virtual banking.
Well, yes, you're right. We've gone from password protection, which was often a single word like password, to complex passwords, which required lowercase, uppercase, numbers and special characters, and then to two-factor authorization, and now to 2FA and biometric data.
But the trouble is, along the way, those who aren't technically minded or who have specific difficulties may find themselves either cut off from the digital channels completely or struggling to cope with the increased sophistication of those defences.
Yeah, and sadly, very often it's exactly those people who will be targeted by the crooks, burglars, robbers, or whatever you want to call them, because they are intrinsically more vulnerable.
And because of the nature of the crime, the theft is directly from them and not from the bank, even though, as in the case of armed bank robberies, the bank is acting as custodian of other people's money.
Exactly, and it's interesting. No one ever kind of thought it was odd that it was down to the bank to protect our money from armed robbers, but now it's down to each individual to protect the money they put into the bank from being stolen.
I think, to be fair to the banks, they do put some time and effort into devising systems to make that difficult.
Well, yeah, I agree, but I do think there's a psychological difference between seeing your local branch has been burgled and not worrying somehow it was your money being stolen and having it stolen directly from your own account.
Yeah, all the more so when very often people are so embarrassed or ashamed at having been conned out of their money, they don't even report it in the first place.
Yeah, whereas I don't think you'd hesitate to report an armed robbery to the police should you ever witness one.
Which is now even more unlikely than it would have been in 1735 when Dick Turpin was in his heyday.
More likely is Hay Night, I think, but I take your point.
Well, quite. But it does reinforce the point that there has probably never been a time in history when so many people could become the victim of a crime, often without even realising it, or at least not until it's too late.
And that's exactly what I mean by the democratisation of crime. All of these wonderful tools we've been given to make it easy to conduct our finances have made it equally as easy for the criminal fraternity to relieve us of our money.
But these changes have happened so quickly that we haven't yet fully changed our perceptions of the risks in the way that we have to protecting our physical property.
Well, that's my belief, Ray, yes.
I think there's another angle to this too, Graham. Opportunities to embrace a life of sophisticated crime have really opened up in recent years.
In what way were you thinking, Ray?
Well, I don't think we even have to go back to Dick Turpin's day to find a time when access to criminal circles and criminal techniques wasn't straightforward. If you were a young wannabe villain in, say, 1970s London, how would you learn the trade?
Well, you'd have to know someone, Ray. You'd have to be friends or make friends with an actual villain, someone who could take you under their wing, show you the tricks and techniques, introduce you to all the people that you'd need in order to further your career.
So what types of people, Graham?
Well, depending on the niche you wanted to carve out, you might need a fence to help you turn your acquisitions into cash. You might need, and I love this word, a Peterman to show you how to steal from a safe.
Yeah.
Why it's called a Peterman, I don't know, but there you go.
Nope.
You might need a banker, Ray, to help you launder your money.
Although, of course, that wasn't terribly difficult in the 70s, Graham.
No, that's absolutely right. But you still needed to know what you were doing, and that meant finding someone who knew and getting them to tell you.
Yeah. I mean, you make that bit sound easy, Graham, but actually these are suspicious people who don't trust new people easily, do they? I mean, even if you can find them, gaining their trust to the point they'll share their secrets with you is not going to be easy.
I think I can see where you're going here, Ray. If you want to learn criminal techniques nowadays, all you need is a PC or a phone with access to the internet.
Yeah. You don't have to know anyone or gain anyone's trust. You don't have to expose yourself to the risks of associating with known criminals at all.
Indeed, you don't even need a fence if you know how to use eBay or Facebook Marketplace. Other platforms are available.
Indeed.
Yep. And you don't need a specialist banker, given the easy availability of retail and corporate bank accounts and the information freely available online about how to do it yourself.
And of course, that means virtually anyone who is criminally inclined can pursue a career of villainy as easily as they might in the past have borrowed a book from the library.
Yes, and without the inconvenience of even going to the library. I mean, this has made a huge difference to the criminal landscape, hasn't it, Ray?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've moved very quickly from an environment with relatively few career criminals to one full of many casual amateur criminals, because all the old barriers to entry have fallen.
And there you go. Criminality has been democratised.
Quite so, Graham. But there are changes coming, not least with the introduction later this year of the way banks are going to be required to deal with the victims of fraud and other scams.
Yeah, we have actually been promising to do an episode on these changes for quite a while. But I did think it would be worthwhile sitting down with you and recording this episode first by way of an introduction.
Okay, we're getting there, listeners. We are getting there, and I'm looking forward to it.